Welcome back to Starz Recapped. Today, we're diving into the full story breakdown of The Thicket 2024, the latest dark Western thriller based on Joe R. Lansdale's acclaimed novel. Starring Peter Dinklage, Juliette Lewis, and Levon Hawke, this gritty frontier drama takes us deep into the lawless heart of 1800s Texas, where violence, vengeance, and survival collide. In this The Thicket Explained video, we'll cover the complete movie recap, its shocking twists, and the ending explained, so you don't miss a single detail. If you love Western thrillers, crime dramas, and story recaps of Hollywood movies, then this video is for you. In the middle of a snowy western plain, the ruthless outlaw known as Cutthroat Bill pedals through the cold until she spots Lula watching from a distance. Bill eventually makes her way to a small church where a funeral is taking place. The mourners instantly move aside, knowing her reputation, and allow her to take a jacket right out of the coffin without question. Meanwhile, Lula returns home only to be met with heartbreaking news from her brother Jack. Both of their parents have fallen victim to smallpox. Devastated, Lula stares at their lifeless bodies while grieving. Soon after, their grandfather Caleb arrives, and the family offers one final prayer before setting the house ablaze to prevent the sickness from spreading further. With heavy hearts, they begin their journey toward their aunt's home in Texas. Elsewhere, in an abandoned settlement, Bill finds her gang waiting for her. Together, they ride toward the river crossing, only to discover that Caleb and his family have already paid the ferryman to go across. Bill attempts to convince Caleb to cover her fare as well, even making a bold move toward Lula. Caleb quickly steps in to protect his granddaughter, pulling his gun. The tension escalates as Bill's entire crew follows suit, weapons ready. Suddenly, the ferry rope snaps, and the loud crack causes Caleb to fire instinctively. The shot grazes Bill's head, but she doesn't hesitate. With cold precision, she fires back twice, killing Caleb on the spot. After the deadly encounter, Bill's gang knocks Jack unconscious and rides off with Lula as their prisoner. Not long after, they arrive in Sylvester Town, where they storm into a local shop to grab supplies. The storekeeper has a weapon in hand, but fear keeps him from using it, so he obeys their every command. Bill mocks him cruelly, forcing him to eat candy straight from her palm in front of everyone. Outside, Lula regains consciousness on horseback and spots the shopkeeper's young son. She whispers for him to escape, but her voice catches the gang's attention. The boy's father seizes the moment, draws his gun, and opens fire. His bullet injures one of the outlaws, but before he can take another shot, Bill executes him with a cold-blooded headshot. Lula makes a run for it, but the slippery mud sends her crashing to the ground. The boy tries to help her up, only to be gunned down in the chaos. Bill steps out, corners Lula again, and drags her back under her control. Meanwhile, Jack finally awakes by the riverside, only to find his sister gone and their cart missing. He kneels, trying to pray for his fallen grandfather, but grief overwhelms him and he breaks down. Pushing through the pain, he sets off in search of Lula and eventually reaches Sylvester. There, he finds the townsfolk gathered in the streets, ready to lynch a stranger, they believe blaming him for the shopkeeper's death. Believing the captured man might know something about the gang, Jack tries desperately to question him about Lula, but the furious mob is too overwhelming, and in the chaos, Jack is shoved to the ground. As he scrambles back up, he spots Jimmy Sue being dragged away and forced into a carriage by Hector. The square is so loud and disorderly that her cries for help go completely unnoticed. Moments later, the townsfolk carry out their brutal justice. The prisoner is hanged while Jack, still trying to reach him, gets knocked unconscious by one of the locals. Meanwhile, out in the woods, Bill's gang stops to let their horses rest. Lula insists that her brother will come for her, but Bill coldly claims that Jack is already dead. While tending to an injured gang member, Bill doesn't notice Lula sneaking a pistol from one of the saddlebags. But when Lula tries to use it, fear paralyzes her. Bill snatches the weapon back and fires a couple of rounds dangerously close to Lula's head, a cruel punishment meant to break her spirit. Back in town, Jack eventually wakes beside the lifeless body of the hanged man. Standing over him is Eustace, a gravedigger who nearly buried Jack as well, thinking he was dead. Eustace mentions that the gang was last seen heading north, and when Jack tries to rent his wagon, he learns it belongs to Eustace's partner, a man named Reginald Jones. At the local tavern, Jones argues with the alderman over payment for a burial. The alderman offers only half of what was promised and mocks Jones for his size, even threatening violence. But Jones doesn't back down. In a flash, he takes the man apart with astonishing skill, leaving him bleeding and humiliated. To finish the point, Jones pulls a gun on him and takes the money he's owed. Furious, the alderman orders his men to chase Jones, but Jones outsmarts them, releasing their horses and cutting down their pursuit. Just as the men open fire, Eustace swoops in with his cart, hiding Jack in the back as they make their escape. Once they're clear of the town, Jack explains to Jones that his sister has been taken by Cutthroat Bill and that there's a hefty bounty on her head. Jones, ever the professional, pulls out a custom rifle fitted with a scope. He spots one of the alderman's men trailing them and drops him with a single precise shot. The rest, terrified, quickly retreat. Still, Jones has no interest in getting involved with Jack's mission. He and Eustace stick to their own path, forcing Jack to improvise. Determined not to give up on Lula, the boy steals a horse from the dead man's body and continues the pursuit alone. Meanwhile, Cutthroat Bill forces Lula to strip out of her fine clothing, tossing it into the fire so she won't attract attention. Instead, Lula is forced to wear one of the gang's rough, oversized shirts. Later that night, Jones sneaks over to Jack, planning to rob him while he sleeps. But Eustace intervenes, pointing out that with a bounty as high as Bill's, sticking with the boy might actually be profitable. When Jack wakes, Jones makes it clear he'll join the rescue mission, but from now on, Jack is working under him. The next morning, the alderman, still furious, hires two dangerous gunslingers, Simon and Malachi, better known as the DC brothers, to hunt Jones down. After a long day on the trail, Jones and his small group take a break. Jack recalls some of the sayings his grandfather Caleb used to repeat, thinking they were Bible verses. Jones corrects him with a smirk, pointing out they actually come from Hamlet, not scripture. Elsewhere, Lula begs the gang to stop so she can relieve herself in the woods. While steadying herself, she accidentally cuts her hand on some branches, leaving behind a trace of blood. That night, things take a darker turn. As Lula tries to sleep, one of the men attempts to assault her, while the others pin her down. Thinking quickly, she smashes a bottle over her attacker's head and screams for help. Bill is suddenly awakened by the commotion. The attacker tries to cover himself, claiming Lula was attempting to run away. But Bill doesn't buy a word of it. Instead, she grabs him viciously, leaving him in agony. After putting him in his place, Bill lies back down beside Lula, wrapping an arm around her as if to guard her through the night. By the next morning, the DC brothers have already tracked the blood trail Lula left in the woods. At the same time, Jack and his companions arrive in a nearby town to swap their wagon for horses and gather leads. Jack wanders into a tavern and, to his shock, finds Jimmy Sue forced into working there against her will. Having already developed feelings for her, Jack tries to pay for her time. But Hector, the one controlling her, says she isn't ready for men yet. Jack pushes back and Hector takes the money anyway. When Jack finally meets Jimmy Sue in the room, he reveals his true intentions. He wants to help her escape, not sleep with her. At first, she doubts him but eventually agrees to trust him. Their escape doesn't last long. Hector catches them, knocking Jack to the floor and striking Jimmy Sue. Jack fights back, landing a few desperate blows, but Hector's strength overwhelms him. He slams Jack's head against the counter and beats Jimmy Sue when she tries to interfere. Hector then begins choking Jack, blaming Jimmy Sue for the trouble before shoving her back toward the room. But Jack seizes the moment, grabbing a fireplace poker and striking Hector hard, finally putting him down. Jimmy Sue spits on her abuser before fleeing with Jack. When they regroup with Jones and Eustace, she shares crucial information about where Bill's gang was last spotted. Meanwhile, deep in the woods, Lula questions one of the outlaws about where they're taking her. He reveals they're heading to the Thicket, a hidden stronghold where Bill has kept other kidnapped girls. Those who tried to escape, he warns, met gruesome fates. Later that night, Jones's team captures one of Bill's men and ties him up for questioning. They beat him and even torture him with nails, but he refuses to give up any information. As Jones rifles through papers on the table, he makes a grim discovery. The official bounty on Bill is much smaller than rumored. Outraged, he declares the job isn't worth the risk. After a heated argument, Jones and Eustace walk away, leaving Jack furious and determined. Jack and Jimmy Sue promise their wounded captive that they'll help him if he talks. With his last breaths, the man finally reveals what he knows about the Thicket. But before Jack can press him for more details, he dies. Elsewhere, Lula manages to slip away from the gang while they're asleep. As she flees through the woods, she runs straight into the DC brothers. They assure her that she's safe with them and bring her back to their camp, telling her about their mission to hunt down a dwarf. But their moment doesn't last. The sound of approaching horses sends Lula hiding, and Bill suddenly storms in. She shoves Simon into the fire, forcing Malachi to flee. Bill then chases Lula down, recaptures her, and executes Simon with a bullet to the chest, right through his badge. Once she's gone, Malachi rushes back, devastated, and holds his dying brother in his arms. By morning, Jack and Jimmy Sue track down Jones and Eustace again, this time offering a new deal, Caleb's land in exchange for rescuing Lula. Jones agrees, finally handing Jack his first real gun. Not long after, the group discovers Bill's gang resting in a nearby town. Jones enters the inn for whiskey and unexpectedly comes face to face with Bill herself. She mocks his height, and he fires back by mocking her scarred face. Rather than taking offense, Bill respects his bluntness. Both admit that most people either stare in silence or ask questions they'd rather not hear. Sharing a strange moment of mutual understanding, Bill even offers him candy before leaving. Outside, Lula overhears the gang talking about Bill's conversation with a dwarf. Through a crack in the wall, she spots Jones inside. When Jones loudly drops Jack's name during a chat with the innkeeper, Lula realizes her brother is alive and searching for her. Meanwhile, Eustace, Jack, and Jimmy Sue wait outside with weapons ready, but Jones never gives the signal to attack. Lula is too close to the crossfire. Suddenly, Malachi sneaks up behind Jimmy Sue, holding her hostage. Instead of pulling his gun, Jones uses clever words to calm the situation. Malachi confesses what happened to his brother and agrees to join them, seeking revenge against Bill. That same night, Bill barges into a church and unleashes her fury on the priest. The following morning, Jones's group learns that the church has been burned to the ground. Though badly scarred, the priest survives and warns them about Bill's lair in the Thicket. He also reveals her disturbing past. Bill's own mother scarred her, blaming her daughter for a lifetime of sins with men. As a child, Bill turned on her abuser, locking her inside their house and burning it while the priest listened helplessly to the screams. The story shakes the group and Jack pushes them to move faster, but Jones reminds him who's in charge. Frustrated, Jack lashes out, no longer afraid of Jones's skills. Jones retaliates by crudely offering Jimmy Sue money, baiting Jack into attacking him. Jack charges, but Jones easily throws him down and aims a gun at his head. Jimmy Sue finally steps in, pointing out the obvious. All of them are on edge, all of them are terrified, and none of them know how to process it. Meanwhile, tensions begin to ease within the group. One of them points out that Jones isn't in this for the money. He's helping because he actually cares about Lula's situation. She urges everyone to stop fighting over who's in charge and focus on working together. Eustace agrees, and Jones finally lowers his weapon, apologizing for the outburst. Out in the woods, Lula asks Bill directly if she plans to kill her. Bill admits she isn't sure, and in a strange twist, shows an almost tender side, even resting her head in Lula's lap. Back with Jones's team, the snow begins to erase the gang's trail, but they refuse to give up and eventually push into the thicket. By nightfall, they set up camp, and Jones shares a painful piece of his past with Jack, how his mother took her own life and his father sold him to a circus. Despite everything, he tells Jack that his sister will never forget him, no matter what happens. The next day, they finally track the gang to a shack deep in the forest. The plan is to wait for the right moment, but Malachi, burning with revenge, sneaks closer. When one of the gang members steps outside, Malachi lunges, only to be overpowered and brutally stabbed. Jack wants to rush in, but Jones stops him, fearing they'll blow their cover. Jimmy, however, can't hold back. He fires his gun and takes the man down, triggering an all-out firefight. The shootout erupts as the gang fires from the windows while Lula hides inside. Bill seems completely unfazed until Jones sneaks around back. When Lula spots him and runs outside, Bill finally reacts, opening fire and dragging Lula into the foggy woods. Eustace and Jack press forward, forcing the gang to scatter. Ignoring Jones's warnings, Jack bolts into the forest to rescue his sister. At the same time, another gang member ambushes Jimmy. She manages to shoot first, but he still ends up in a desperate struggle for his life. The fight turns brutal in the snow. Jimmy wrestles with one of the outlaws until the enemy gains the upper hand and fatally stabs her. With his last breath, he mutters words in his native tongue before both of them collapse, lifeless in the cold. Elsewhere, Jones realizes Eustace has been badly injured in the shootout. Thinking quickly, He sets up his rifle with a scope to take down any remaining threats. Just then, another gang member creeps close, forcing Eustace to step out as a distraction. Jones tries to line up his shot, but before he can fire, the outlaw charges at him, sending both men crashing into the snow in a vicious brawl. Meanwhile, Jack tracks Bill through the forest, following the sound of her mocking laughter. Suddenly, a gunshot rings out, and he barely manages to duck behind a tree. Bill toys with him from the shadows, then fires, hitting him in the shoulder. As he struggles to rise, she shoots his other shoulder, leaving him helpless. Lula rushes to her brother's side just as Bill approaches to finish the job. But when she pulls the trigger, her gun clicks empty. Seizing the moment, Lula throws herself at Bill, landing blow after blow. Bill, still laughing, shoves her off and pulls a knife, ready to slash her throat. Dizzy from the punches, she hesitates for just a second. Enough time for Jones to line up the shot and put a bullet through her head. With her final breath, Bill whispers, "Mama," before collapsing. The siblings embrace, but Jack is too weak to move. Moments later, he dies in Lula's arms, leaving her shattered. Jones goes searching for Eustace and finds his old friend on the brink of death. Eustace smiles when he hears that Bill has been killed, proud that their mission wasn't in vain. The two share a final moment as the sun breaks through the trees, and with tears in his eyes, Eustace passes away. In the aftermath, a grief-stricken Lula takes her revenge one last time, decapitating Bill's body. With Jones's help, she carries the head, closing this bloody chapter once and for all. The sheriff is ready to spread the word and give Jones all the glory for bringing down the notorious outlaw. But Jones refuses the fame. He asks that the true identity of the killer remain a mystery. To their shock, the bounty they were chasing turns out to be very real after all. With fresh clothes and a new ride secured, Lula opens up to Jones. She admits she has no one left in the world and asks him to stay by her side. In time, the two settle down together on Caleb's land, where they dig a grave for Jack in the backyard to honor his memory. Lula now carries a scar across behind by Bill's blade, wearing it as a mark of survival and strength. And that wraps up the full story recap of The Thicket 2024. A gripping Western thriller filled with revenge, survival, and shocking twists. If you enjoyed this The Thicket Movie Explained video, don't forget to hit the like button, share this breakdown with your friends, and subscribe to Starz Recapped for more movie recaps, endings explained, and story breakdowns of the latest Hollywood thrillers and action dramas. Stay tuned because we've got more Western movie recaps, 2024 movie explainers, and full story breakdowns coming your way. Only here on Starz Recapped.